All right, all right. Looks like we're live here. Nobody in the room yet, but I will get started in case anyone wants to run this back. So, most of you know, my name is Nick Marro. I'm here with Occupy Fantasy to help you break down tonight's MLB DFS main slate on both DraftKings and FanDuel. We got a nice big Friday slate, as always, plenty to break down. And we did just get some weird news. So, Garrett Crochet, kind of coming into the slate, was going to be the top arm, very clearly, very much so. And now we're getting word from the White Sox manager that he's probably on a pitch slash innings count. I'm trying to pull up the exact tweet here. But yeah, obviously this is concerning to say the least. For whatever reason, they want to get him 10 days rest out of the break. I don't know if they're going to look to trade him or what. But yeah, this just doesn't feel great. When I first heard it, I kind of just thought it was coach speak. We didn't have to dig too deep. But the more I think about it, the more I am concerned because they're saying Jonathan Cannon's going to come in behind him, which is another pretty decent young arm, obviously not on Crochet's level. But this is another guy who stretched out to go multiple innings. So, um, yeah, it's just really, really annoying and frustrating because he was going to be my favorite arm on the slate tonight. I will refresh the data here. I did just hear from Moose on the back end. I know he kind of capped his innings a little bit. He's still probably going to show up as one of the top arms, but yeah, as he should, he's kind of come down the board. Um, where is he? Yeah, so instead of being like a 19 plus OF index, we're now seeing him down around 12.2. The thing is, even if he were to be limited to say 5 innings, his 1.61K per IP does make him appealing, but the ownership is going to plummet on him as well. So if you're playing large field tournaments, you can mix him in if you're playing cheaper stacks, but we can't really call him like the safest cash arm on the slate anymore. Instead, we're going to be looking at guys like Joe Ryan, Sonny Gray, Freddie Peralta, Sean Manaea, etc. I'll talk through the pitching in just a minute here. But yeah, this is kind of strange. Um, Another thing I'm seeing is we got Matt Waldron listed in the model as the starter for San Diego. I thought it was going to be Randy Vasquez. So that's something else we got to take a little bit of a deep dive into. But yeah, let's pull up the plug here. If anyone has any questions, definitely get them into the chat. Happy to answer anything from anyone. And like the video, subscribe to the channel. It helps us get more free content like this out to you on a regular basis. But yeah, we got to talk through this Crochet stuff. And I will as more and more folks come in. And Prince, that's Garrett Crochet. We're talking about the starting pitcher for the Chicago White Sox. And if you were reading the plug today, hopefully there's someone around who can maybe edit it. He was going to be our top arm with the 19.5 OF index rating. He's been excellent. I mean, he's competing with Skubal as the AL Cy Young Award winner, potentially going to be a trade target at the deadline for a lot of teams. I know the Orioles have had discussions about going after him. They definitely have the prospects to make it happen. Really, any team would definitely benefit from adding a power lefty like that to their rotation, especially for the playoffs. So, Crochet on some sort of pitch count here. He's no longer a top arm. So, I like him as far as talent goes. I still think he has some upside, especially if that ownership plummets. But you're paying a premium for a guy who's probably going to be capped around 5 innings. And we didn't get an exact inning count. We didn't get exact numbers in terms of how many pitches he might be limited to. So we're going to proceed with some caution there. But yeah, I'll say this. I'm playing the 25 single entry, the $12 MDK. I had him in both of those tonight. Hadn't built my FanDuel stuff yet, but I plan on making him my highest owned arm. That's no longer going to be the case. So I guess we got to talk about now who we're going to be pivoting to. So we already like Joe Ryan. I love the matchup for him. His K stuff has been excellent this season. Nearly a 1.2K per IP, taking on the Giants, whose offense hasn't been terrible, but at the same time, really nothing we need to fear. 3.17 implied total for them. And the Twins are favored on the road here, so I do like Ryan a lot. He does pitch better at home, generally speaking, but he's had some pretty good road starts this season, which is nice to see. He's kind of flattening those splits that have been kind of a thing to note in years past. So I'm getting to a lot of Joe Ryan here. Sonny Gray is interesting. I mean, one of the more talented arms on the board, kind of inconsistent lately, though. He did have a stint on the injured list, just looking over on my other screen at his game log. But yeah, back-to-back starts with 6Ks, which is good, but he's allowed to combine 8 runs and 15 hits across those 2 starts. So he's been pretty volatile. But yeah, I mean, the Cubs offense, they did get to Suarez and the Orioles last night. They definitely have some upside, but this is a lineup that kind of falls off a cliff. Swanson's been struggling this season. Master Booney, I know he's 2K flat. You might get to a little on DK. Pico Armstrong, talented young bat. Miguel Amaya. But that lineup, honestly, 6 through 9 is pretty ugly right now. And it looks like no Bellinger in there today either. Morel is in, but yeah, not the best Cubs lineup, so I'm fine getting to some Gray, especially if he's going to be low on. But I will say I do expect that ownership to kind of creep up now that Crochet is going to see his ownership creep down. Love Joe Ryan. Cole Reagans, whoever's been tuning into these shows knows he's one of my favorite young arms. I touted him as a Cy Young pick earlier in the season. Probably not going to get there, but he has been damn good coming off really solid outings against Colorado, in Coors, Cleveland, Miami, Oakland. Decent against the Dodgers, decent against Seattle. So he's had a really soft schedule. The tricky thing here today is that he's going to be chalk on DK because he's mispriced. We're seeing 35%, most popular arm on the slate over there, and he's taking on the Red Sox in Fenway. So this is a park downgrade for him. The Red Sox best bats in Duran and Devers are lefties, which is favorable to Reagans, but at the same time, this is just a dangerous spot, in my opinion, if you're going to be playing him at significant ownership. I'm fine mixing him in. I think in cash games, you probably do want to get to him. But yeah, I'll talk about Manai in a minute. But his upside is tremendous. 1.38K per IP. I think that's second behind, or third behind Reagans and Sonny Gray today. But yeah, I think he's a little bit over-owned, if we're being honest. On FanDuel at 10-2, ownership's a little bit down, but you're also paying a premium. I do like him, but again, the ownership is going to kind of come up on a lot of these arms we like, with Garrett Crochet's likely coming down. And I'll refresh the data again here in just a minute. But I do want to talk about Sean Manaea. So this is a really interesting spot. Whenever we get the Rockies away from Coors, it's definitely something worth considering. And yeah, Manaea coming off 3 straight quality starts, I believe. He's looked good in each of them against Pittsburgh, Washington, and my Yankees. He's had some really solid outings. He's affordable, great matchup. I'm going to pull up a MLB contest here just so I can, I don't know, show you guys the game logs that I'm looking at on my other screen. Probably better for the viewer. But yeah, I like Manaea a lot. I am interested to see where his ownership ends up. Just pulling that up now. But yeah, very popular, as expected. I think he has a very, very high floor. Probably not as much upside as a Reagans or a Peralta. Certainly not as much upside as a Ryan or a Gray. But you're not paying as much as those last two I mentioned. And yeah, I do think he's the higher floor. Really, really low implied total for the Rockies today, sub 3 runs. 2.43. I think that is the lowest on the board. And he's a massive favorite too. So you're probably going to get that win bonus, 6 points on FanDuel, 4 over on DK. So just lots of reasons to like Manaea. And again, there's so many good stacks on this slate. I'm really comfortable kind of eating chalk at pitcher, especially now with Crochet unavailable. I don't want to get too weird with it. I will talk about some arms I'm going to roll the dice on, but Manaea is definitely an arm I have circled, someone I'm going to be pretty heavy on, even at chalk. I do feel better about him as chalk than I do Reagans. Reagans is the better arm with more K upside, but the matchup is enough for me to kind of, I don't know, shy away a little bit from Cole Reagans. I'm just trying to lock in some floor pitching and really just jam in expensive bats where I can. But yeah, some of the better stacks today aren't all that expensive, but we'll get there in a little bit. We talked about Crochet. I'll highlight this situation again a little bit as we get a few more folks in here on the live stream. I do want to talk about Peralta. Super inconsistent, right? But the thing about him is he obviously has tremendous K upside. He's in a great spot today against the Nationals. I mean, this offense has been a little bit better than expected, but really nothing to fear. And the big thing with Peralta, kind of similar to Joe Ryan, he's much better pitching at home. Peralta, the splits are even more dramatic. I usually don't want to get to him on the road against most teams. Nationals honestly would be a team I'd probably play him on the road against regardless. I tend to kind of dig into these home road splits a little deeper than some people, mostly because on these massive slates, we just have so many arms to choose from. I really don't want to, I don't know, land on a landmine, for lack of a better word. But I do feel really confident in Peralta here at home. I think we get probably 6 to 10 Ks out of him. Even if he allows a run or two, he's probably still going to hit value, sub 10K on both sites. Reasonable ownership, massive favorite, checks all the boxes. So yeah, let me refresh the data. I want to see where Crochet ends up. Like I said, I think he's probably going to be capped around 5 innings if I had to guess. If it's even less, you're not going to want him at all in your lineup. So I'm definitely going to be adjusting things after the stream. But yeah, I mean, usually I'm kind of creating a breakout point in terms of OF index for my pitcher pool. Today, I don't think it's that straightforward. There's some guys down here I'd maybe roll the dice on, like a Carson Spears against Miami. Just really cheap, good matchup. flash some upside. Schwellenbach for Atlanta, another one. Don't like the matchup against the Padres, but they're a little bit banged up. And then Yario Rodriguez. I mean, Occupy has been on him heavily. I think all the guys here that work for the MLB channel really do like him, and I know the model really likes him, but the field never gets to him. Tonight against Arizona, it's a terrible matchup, but he's flashed a very high ceiling. So if you're in large field, high risk contests, definitely someone I'd be considering. Coming off two great starts, 6 Ks against Seattle and Houston, only allowed 1 run and 3 hits combined across those two starts. So do I feel great about him here against Arizona, especially on the road? No. But at the same time, at no ownership, definitely an arm I'm going to be getting to. I'm a huge fan of Brian Wu. I think he's super talented. Kind of working his way back from an injury. Good matchup for him. Don't mind getting to him here, but I don't know. I'd proceed with some caution. He didn't look great before the injury. Maybe that was the reason, and he gets right. But he is very low owned, so I will mix him in. And then we get the biggest series of the weekend. I'm a little bit biased between the Yankees and the Orioles. Most of you know I'm a diehard Yankees fan. Cole working his way back from the IL, didn't have a real spring training. So a lot of these guys that missed the spring haven't been great. Blake Snell, it's taken him kind of a while to find his footing. Who else? Jordan Montgomery's been absolutely terrible. You could blame Scott Boras on those two. Can't blame Boras on Cole, though. He's just kind of missed time. But he's working his way back, and the Ks have been there for him. He's just not spotting his pitches all that well. Very dangerous spot here against the Orioles, but at no ownership as his pitch count continues to climb. I'm fine mixing him in. Not going to say he's a priority or anything like that. Waldron, I have no interest in. I want to double check this too because I think it's Vasquez who's going for the Padres, so we'll look into that. Regardless, I'm not going to probably get to either Padres arm. But yeah, my favorites today: Joe Ryan, Freddie Peralta, Sean Manaea. Going to be super heavy on those three. Mixing in Sonny Gray, mixing in some Cole Wu, Rodriguez, maybe Spears, Schwellenbach, but that's probably not necessary. So a smaller pitcher pool for me today. But if we're taking a look at ownership here, Reagan's, again, super popular. I like him, just don't love the matchup against Boston. Tough to play him as the highest owned arm on the slate, unless you're playing low-risk contests, cash games, etc. And then on FanDuel, I mean, Peralta's super popular, but I think he should be sub 10K. More comfortable eating him as chalk. And then Sean Manaea, Joe Ryan look great. Crochet, again, for those who are just joining, we got word from the White Sox manager that he's going to be on a pitch count. So we got to kind of keep that in mind. But yeah, guys, thanks for tuning in. I think we got 8 or 9 people in here now. Obviously, we'd love to have more. I know it's a Friday, though. But yeah, please like the video if you can. And that's going to help us get this in front of more eyes so we can have more of these. But let's keep going here. So we're through the pitchers for now. If you guys have any questions, definitely get them in. Happy to talk through any and every arm. But let's refresh the stacks now. Let's see. I'm going to refresh Twitter. Maybe we got more Coach Speak on Crochet. But last I heard, again, innings and pitch count going into the All-Star break. They want to get him 10 days rest. And everyone seems to want to trade for this guy if they're in playoff contention. So, yeah, it says he's having his workload monitored. But I don't know. Okay, we'll talk more about him if we have to. But for now, let's get into the stacks. Scrolling up. So we get the Reds and the Mets at the top of the OF index today. I know the Reds are rating higher. Personally, I think I prefer the Mets, but they are going to be more popular, so definitely keep that in mind. Actually, no, I take that back. The Reds are the most popular on BK, and Boston's the most popular stack on FanDuel against Reagan's, which is kind of strange. I guess they're affordable, especially the righties. Guys like Ruff Snyder, they're cheap. But yeah, that's giving me some pause, kind of trying to wrap my head around that. But yeah, I'm very comfortable getting both Reds and Mets stacks here pretty aggressively. I personally, like I said, like the Mets a little bit more. They're taking on this kid, Tanner Gordon for the Rockies, who hasn't been good in AAA, which is usually a good sign as he gets promoted to the majors. Mets rating out excellent in the model here. And then we have the Reds taking on Yanni Chirinos. The thing is, Chirinos hasn't been terrible. And I wrote up stacks today. Usually we're looking for stats to kind of verify what we're seeing in the model when we write these things up. I'll be honest, it was tough to find numbers that really support loading up on bats against Chirinos, other than what he's done throughout his career. I think he's pitching a little bit above his head right now. He's coming off back-to-back starts where he allows the 3 earned runs. Probably not enough for you to win a tournament, but I think he's going to regress. And while we're not seeing that regression necessarily in his BABIP or his XFIP yet, we're dealing with a really small sample of data. And if we're just kind of comparing what he's done to his regular season this season across just a few starts, I do think he's kind of pitching above his head. Really tough park to here for him today, taking on the Reds in the Great American Ballpark, excuse me. So yeah, plenty of upside. Definitely fine getting to the Reds. Ellie and Candelario, I believe, are the two top bats in the entire OF index today. No surprise. 300 plus ISO, just ridiculous. Ellie mashes righties. Candelario's been excellent. Just such a great pickup for them. But yeah, definitely fine getting to Reds, but make sure you're getting those two bats in there. The reason they are the top stack today is because these are the two top bats on the slate. Benson's affordable. Hines is one of my favorite value plays on the board. Kind of opens up a lot of things. I'd even use them on a one-off on both sides, honestly, if you're looking to pay up for other stacks. Like if you're going five-man Mets, five-man Yankees, five-man some of these more expensive teams, someone like Hines makes that possible. I will say this too, another punt I really like on DK today is Sosa for the White Sox. You can play him at second or short, 2,400, batting sixth. I've been using him a ton, and he pays off more often than not. Just another really good punt. And I'm comfortable kind of punting two or three spots as a way to get to really expensive stacks. It's a good way, in my opinion, to really just make sure you're getting the best bats if you're trying to focus on a team and still pay up for pitching. Obviously, in a perfect world, you're getting five mans with three mans on DK, but I've had some success going with these one-offs, and I'm usually mostly on FanDuel. I've been trying to play more DK. But yeah, Sosa and Hines today for me are excellent value options. Let's sort by OF index. But yeah, Reds, Mets, and we wrote up the Braves, but that was against Vasquez. So again, we got to keep an eye on this. If it's Waldron, obviously they're not going to be nearly as appealing. Against Vasquez, though, they do have upside. And then the Blue Jays were tied with the Braves even before all this happened. So I'm totally fine going to Toronto. Ryan Nelson has actually been decent in his last couple starts. I think it's kind of a mirage, though. I don't know if I really buy into that. So I'm fine going to them here against Nelson in Arizona. Decent spot for hitters. Springer's been hitting the ball better. Guerrero, Bichette is hurting out, which hurts that lineup. But at the same time, I mean, they're popping in the model for a reason. Going to be very, very low owned here. Don't love the White Sox, just not the best lineup, but it isn't a bad spot for them. Against, I believe Marco Gonzalez is back for them today. Just a mediocre lefty, so there is some upside there. Again, Sosa, one of my favorite one-offs. We can talk about this Yankees game now. I mean, the Yankees do look great on paper here. Their hitters have been pretty damn cold. It seems they're kind of getting it going now. Soto seems locked in. Ben Rice has been great. It is a lefty-lefty matchup for him, though. Obviously not ideal, but he's been solid. But yeah, I mean, this is a cold offense, but they're more affordable than usual. You got DJ LeMahieu leading off tonight, which makes it really kind of easy to get to both Soto and Judge and feel okay about it. And Povich has been terrible. I mean, this kid has good stuff. But yeah, I mean, he's having trouble keeping the ball in the park. I think his xFIP's pushing like 6 runs. So yes, I'm biased, but I'm fine going to the Yankees. And if you're someone who believes Cole's going to continue to struggle, I could see going to Baltimore. Personally, I think he's going to bounce back. I'm not crazy about this matchup. Um, but yeah, let's see here. Sorry, just responding to a FedEx delivery. So yeah, we also got Houston here against, I believe, Andrew Heaney. Heaney is a poor man's Robbie Ray. Now kind of the rich man's Robbie Ray, honestly. He's been really solid this year, at least by his own standards. Houston, kind of a boom-bust stack. Heaney, kind of a boom-bust arm. So I don't know. I think they have upside here. If you're playing large field tournaments, I'm fine getting to them. KC against Boston, nice park upgrade for them. But I want to talk about St. Louis because to me, I'm shocked that they're not more popular. So they rate way up there in terms of team total. We have them just outside the top 10 in terms of OF index, pretty high WOBA. This hasn't been a great lineup, but they are getting Lars Newbar back, which is a plus. They're taking on Kyle Hendricks, which is a plus as well. There's wind blowing out in St. Louis. Not that that matters all that much, but just another stack I'd be mixing in. But yeah, I mean, looking at ownership here, really, really like the Mets on DK. Probably what I'm going to be using in the 25 SE. And then, yeah, I just can't really wrap my head around a cheap Cardinal stack being so low owned on both sides. So going to get to them pretty aggressively. Really not crazy about Boston as chalk. Not all that crazy about Texas either against Hunter Brown. So yeah, we're looking at some really popular stacks today that both myself and the model aren't all that excited about. Um, so yeah, for sorting by OF index, I mean anything under kind of 40% is low owned enough that you can kind of eat chalk at pitcher. Um, but yeah, the Reds are chalk. I'm fine with. Don't like Texas. Don't really like Houston. Don't really like Boston. Really do like the Mets, I will say. Not crazy about Seattle. Not crazy about Miami. I do like Toronto, Yankees. So it's kind of interesting. And again, I do want to confirm who's pitching for San Diego because if it is Waldron, or no, if it is Vasquez, then I'm fine getting to the Braves as well. But so like for such a big slate, like there's not that many stacks we're crazy about. So I don't know, mix and match. Definitely keep an eye on ownership. There's no real reason to force chalk tonight on bats because I do think the arms that are popular are more likely than not to succeed. Um, yeah, so Waldron has been announced versus the Braves. Not nearly as good, in my opinion. Um, we like them more against Vasquez. Waldron's actually a half decent arm. You can still go there. Braves are one of those teams, like against anyone, they have upside if they're not going to be popular. I would keep an eye on the ownership, though. They are low owned enough. But for me personally, I'm probably not going to get there all that aggressively. What else do we have here? Twins in the late game. Just don't love the park. Harrison's kind of due for some positive regression. The Mariners are finally hitting the ball against Tyler Anderson. Don't mind them. The model kind of likes. No, the model hates them. So maybe I should take that back. But yeah, they've been terrible all year. So the data is going to take a while to kind of catch up. But if you look at the lineup here, they got France, they got Garver, Cal Rowley if he's in there. Dylan Moore against lefties, always a good option. So keep an eye on that Mariners lineup. Once that's out, don't be surprised to see them climb up in the model a little bit because what they had projected this morning didn't look great. But I think they could actually roll out a better lineup than what we've seen. And guys like Julio are finally hitting the ball. So I do think the Mariners are going to be underrated for the next week or so, coming in and out of the All Star break. But at the same time, not necessarily something you have to force. What else here? Yeah, again, I just can't wrap my head around Boston being the most popular stack on FanDuel against Reagan's. Just seems kind of insane. Makes me want to play more Cole Reagan's, but he's popular too. It's like people are just playing both sides of that one. Kind of makes it a tricky situation. I'll mostly just avoid both sides, for being honest. I'd rather play Reagan's in Boston as chalk, but I really don't like either as chalk. Um, Again, Reds look really good, except they're chalky. Mets look great. Mets are probably my favorite stack on the slate. When blowing out, not the best part for hitters, but they're kind of locked in right now. Brandon Nimmo um, has been excellent. I mean, this guy has crushed it lately. I mean, he's gone for double digits in 6, 7 games in a row on FanDuel. Just getting on base, stealing bases, scoring runs. He does have some power. Good matchup for him against Gordon. Gordon's kind of bad against righties and lefties. I do favor the lefties slightly. So Lindor and Nimmo are the priorities there. Don't mind mixing in McNeil at the bottom, but JD, Alonso, Alvarez, Vientos, a cheap Iglesias who's been hitting the ball well. McNeil's been terrible. Kind of seems to be coming around a little bit. Bader is the wraparound, has some speed on the base pass. I'm going to plant my flag and say the Mets are my favorite stack today, everything considered. Um, Reds aren't too far behind. I do like the Yankees a lot. If they get into that Baltimore pen, though, it's probably going to cap their upside. They can kind of mix and match matchups. Not the best bullpen in the world, but you want to get those runs early against Povich. But yeah, that could be a little bit tricky. Then on the other end, kind of feel the same way. Cole isn't in peak form. I'm still not probably going to get to much Baltimore. Biased aside, I do think he bounces back at some point. Baltimore is pretty expensive too. Like Gunner, decent one-off. Adley, decent one-off. Sunfinder, but they're all 5K plus on DK, which makes it kind of tough for me to want to get there with any sort of aggression. So yeah, guys, if you have any other questions, get them in. Again, like the video, subscribe to the channel, pop in the Discord, say hello. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. I will talk about the Brewers too. A little bit interested in them. So third in WOBA, third in team total, just outside the top 10 in terms of OF index. They're taking on Jackson Rutledge and the Nationals. Rutledge isn't really stretched out to go deep, I don't think. So this is going to be a bullpen game for Washington. Their bullpen isn't very good, especially their long guys. The back end, they have a few decent arms, but I'm not afraid there. And Brewers for years have been better hitting at home. Guys like Yelich, Contreras, Adames. Excuse me. Then they got young bats like Ortiz, Terang now, really making that lineup pretty interesting. Total has climbed above 5 runs. So add Milwaukee to that short list of stacks I'm interested in tonight. They're getting some love, pretty popular, honestly. But I don't know. I don't think they're going to be maybe as popular as some of these other teams we're talking about. Let's see. Yeah, Double J, don't mind Seattle. We could talk about. Oh, and wow, Michael, we're in sync, man. I didn't even see your comment, and I'm talking about the Brewers. Definitely on some Brewers for sure. Great shout by you. Good matchup, but again, it is a bullpen game. Washington can kind of mix and match, but I really don't like much of what they have in that bullpen, so we don't necessarily need to worry about that. Double J, yeah, let's talk about the home run boost for a second. DK has a boost, and obviously in DFS, you're going to want to be looking for guys that homer too. So if you have access to the model, which is super cheap, check the links in the description below to get access. But you can sort, excuse me, frog in my throat, and you can sort by ISO. So ISO is isolated power. It kind of takes singles out of the equation in terms of grading bats. So it's a good way to find guys that are going to homer. Some guys just double a lot, so you'll see skewed ISOs for players like that. But more often than not, what it's going to do is help you find guys who are very likely to home run. Tonight, I mean, Candelario is all the way up there. I bet we get good odds on him too. He's not really known as a power hitter. Probably one of my favorites against Chirinos. So Candelario's a good one. Judge is ice cold right now. His odds are going to be terrible, but with that boost, you probably get him up to 380, 400, something like that. Fine going to him against the lefty for sure. Could break out of that slump here in a big way. Ellie De La Cruz, obviously a solid option as well, but the odds are probably not going to be super favorable. Will Benson probably is better odds. But yeah, I really, really like Candelario to home run. Francisco Alvarez, another guy. Odds are probably decent. Brandon Nimmo, another one. Again, we're trying to look for guys that are going to be affordable in DFS with that home run upside. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think we do have a few, some sneaky ones too. The White Sox. I mentioned Sosa earlier. I'm a little bit crazy how heavy I am on him tonight. He's a one-off in most of my DK lineups, but this kid has power, sneaky power, and him, Eloy Jimenez, Robert. Honestly, don't hate the White Sox lineup today, as terrible as they are as a team against Marco Gonzalez, who can only be described as a mediocre lefty. I don't mind their upside here, so fine getting to some White Sox. But yeah, if I'm just giving my final home run calls, let's go Candelario, Brandon Nimmo. I don't want to say Judge, but I do like Judge. Um, and Louis Robert. Let's go Candelario, Nimmo, Robert. Those three, I think, are pretty good shouts. Hopefully they all homer here. But yeah, no new crazy news. Again, for those who were joining late, Garrett Crochet was going to be our favorite arm today, but they're monitoring his workload, probably because they're going to try to ship him out for a bunch of prospects. So yeah, they got to proceed with some caution with him. It's going to cut to his upside, and as the most expensive pitcher on the slate, it's going to take me off him for the most part. Probably only get 5 innings out of him, and that is maybe wishful thinking. Really, we have no word on the exact limit. And the fact that they said that Cannon's going to come in behind him gives me more concern because Cannon's stretched out to go 4 or 5 himself. So, kind of a situation where they're probably starting two guys. If Crochet's efficient, maybe we get 5 or 6 out of him. 6, probably not. But yeah, I think 4 or 5 is probably a fair projection for his innings, which is obviously not what we had this morning when he was the top pitcher on the board. I will refresh one more time. I do think we're going to see his ownership come down. He was over 30% on DK, I think 20-ish on FanDuel. Yeah, now we're seeing him still 28 and 12. I do think that comes down a little bit, so keep an eye on it. Again, kind of crazy that Reagan's and the Red Sox are both super popular. I think people are just kind of hedging their spots there. But to me, I mean, maybe that plays out neutral. Like Reagan's doesn't do quite enough to hit value, but he's not terrible. Does well enough to kind of limit Boston. And you're really not going to want either of that. Either side of that, at super high ownership. Manaea is good chalk. Really like Peralta, great spot for him. Really like Joe Ryan. Sonny Gray, a little bit pricey for what he's been doing lately, but it's not the best Cubs lineup they've rolled out. But yeah, enough arms to like, in my opinion, that you can get away from Crochet, feel okay about it. Hunter Brown, I like, but a little bit more expensive than I wanted him to be. Yariel, again, the model loves him. We at Occupy love him. Not a good matchup at all, but if you're looking for a punt, I think he's fine. Yeah, guys, last call for questions. About to wrap this up. I got a few lineups to build. I got to pull Crochet out of most of them, so definitely need a few minutes. And yeah, Horowitz is fine for Toronto. Again, Blue Jays look good here. Uh, yeah, pretty fun slate tonight. I will touch on the weather quickly. There's some spotty rain spots. There's some games that could be delayed, but nothing significant enough that I think it gets postponed. I'm looking at Ross' weather report right now. He has nothing lower than just a yellow. So yeah, New York, Baltimore, and Colorado Mets. Probably some dicey rain here or there, but not enough to really limit anything. You could go to the arms. Shouldn't be much of an issue. All right. All right. Well, happy Friday, everyone. Again, Nick Marro here. You can find me on Twitter at Nick Marro DFS. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Let's win tonight. Make some money going into the weekend. Good luck, everyone. Take care, and talk to you soon.